everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies featuring Exquisite Exandria, the official Critical Role cookbook. We're starting off with the appetizer, Grog's Garlicky Mayonnaise, also fries. As this cookbook's got stories behind it, let's tell this one. After Vox Machina killed the dragon Umbrasyl, Grog found a rune-covered ceramic jar buried under Umbrasyl's hoarded gold. Strangely, the jar made sloshing noises even when empty. Grog did some experimenting and discovered that it could make gallons of liquid on command. Footnote here, experiments included repeatedly shaking the jug, trying to break the jug, letting Percy and Caliph fill the jug with dragon blood and dirt, and wearing the jug as a hat. Ale, water, salt water, more ale, and mayonnaise, which he ate straight from the jar until it was gone. Grog is perfectly happy with this simple snack, but he has admitted, grudgingly, that it could be improved on by scooping up the mayo with something besides his fingers. We suggest these oven-roasted herbed fries. We've also included a way to fancy up your straight-from-the-jar mayonnaise, or should you not have access to a magic jug, make your own from scratch. Well, we'll find out how all of this turns out because the ingredients are waiting for us at the table, so let's move in that direction. You'll probably hear the oven chirping in the background. I've got that preheating to 425. I did all of my prep yesterday, so I won't need to worry about any of that. So in order to make the recipe, you can see we've got a two-part split going here. So to make the fries, we need 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes, about 3 medium or 2 large potatoes, 1/3 cup of olive oil, 1.5 teaspoons of finely minced fresh rosemary leaves, which is from about 1 large sprig. Okay. Just checking the notes. A teaspoon of kosher salt, 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. This is definitely not freshly ground, but we'll use it anyway. 2 garlic cloves. I'm using 2 teaspoons of pre-minced garlic. And grated Parmesan cheese for serving, which is optional, but I'm not going to use that here. In order to make the mayonnaise, we need an egg, which is actually just off shot, so let's bring that in. We need an egg, a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, once again, not fresh, tablespoon of white vinegar, 3 garlic cloves peeled, again, we'll go to 3 teaspoons of minced garlic, more kosher salt, and 3/4 cup of neutral oil, such as canola or veggie. I'm using veggie oil. First step of the recipe is to scrub the potatoes under cold running water. You can see I've done all of that already, where I've also cut the potatoes lengthwise into planks, then each plank into 1/2-inch thick batons. And I've got the cut potatoes in a large mixing bowl, so as we move into the kitchen, we will start with the potatoes in shot. We're going to start off with the potatoes, and we're going to take our olive oil, which I've got a huge jug of it right here, our 1/3 cup of it, and we're going to toss the potatoes in the oil to get them coated evenly. Whoop. Okay. That can go toward the dishes. And now we'll work on tossing the potatoes. Okay. That looks to be pretty good, I think. Yep. I think that'll work. Give my hands a quick wash. Now we're going to spread the potatoes out on what's technically supposed to be an unlined baking sheet, but I always use aluminum foil to make cleanup a lot easier, so we're going to here as well. We're going to see about spreading this out in a nice even layer. Okay. That, I think, will work. Yep. Okay. See if we can maybe spread this out just a little bit more. I think that will do it. Yep. Okay. I think that's all set there. And then once the oven comes up to temperature, we're going to put those in the oven for 40 to 50 minutes. Now, the recipe calls for you turning the red potatoes halfway through baking, but these are on here so tightly, I don't think I'm going to be able to turn them, so I'm not going to worry about turning them. So right now we're just waiting for the oven to come up to temperature. By the time we come back, though, the oven will be up to temperature and these will be in. The potatoes are in the oven. They're starting to bake. I have them in for a little bit. I have them in for about an hour, even though the recipe only calls for 40 to 50 minutes, because I know my oven tends to run a little bit on the cool side. So while the fries are roasting, we're going to work on the mayonnaise. We're going to start off, we've got our blender. I've got my blender in shot. We're going to take the lid off. Okay. We're going to start off with our egg. Landed right on the blade and the yolk immediately broke, which I don't mind that in the slightest for obvious reasons. I wouldn't care about that. You can probably guess I don't care about that since we're going in the blender. The lemon juice. Oop, easy does it. Don't want the pour to be too much there. Let's see. The vinegar. Garlic, which is 3 teaspoons of minced garlic. Two. And 3. Actually, do I need the 2 teaspoons again? I probably do. I believe I need that. Yep, I need that for later, so that better not go anywhere. Actually, that can go on the spoon rest. And we need half of the kosher salt. We need a half teaspoon of, half teaspoon of salt. That's a little more than half a teaspoon, but we'll work with it. I'm pretty sure I need the teaspoon again. Yep. Okay. Alright, that can go over toward the dishes. And now we're going to blend this on medium-low speed until the garlic is broken down and the mixture is smooth, which should take about 30 seconds. Now, the recipe says at this point, I'm going to check on how smooth it is, but I'm going to explain why I'm going to take liberties with the next step of the recipe. Yep, that's completely smooth. So the next step of the next part of this says while the blender is running, slowly pour in the oil. Now, if I were to do that with the blender running, I would have a gigantic mess on my hands. So I'm going to wait until after, so I'm going to stop the blender and pour the oil in before, I'm going to pour that in before I restart the blender. So we've got our veggie oil right here. Big jug of it because I use it a lot when I'm frying in oil. Okay. That can go back up. Okay. So now, at first the mix will look lumpy and broken as we're running it, but after 30 to 60 seconds, the mayo will start coming together. So we're going to start this again. At the 30-second mark, we'll check to make sure that the mix is behaving as I'm expecting it to. Still smooth, still very liquidy, so we'll hit it again. Okay, looks like that only pulses it for about a minute, so that's actually good to know as well. And I just had the lid drop in. Let me give that a quick little... Let me see about giving that a quick little wipe down here. I'm definitely concerned about how liquidy that is still looking. Because I'm expecting it to come together, but it's obviously not. Okay. Yep, looks like we're all good there. Maybe it is supposed to be a bit liquidy, but I know mayonnaise And this feels like this feels like it's a little too liquidy, even by mayonnaise standards. I'll see if I can tip the camera down so you guys can see how much that's running. Like there's almost like there's something missing here, but I can't put my finger on it. I doubt I'm going to use it though. And I do apologize that we're just watching the blender pulse in real time. But the mayo, as you can probably guess, is the most critical part of this recipe. So we're obviously going to watch the blend in real time. Like I said, I probably am... Actually, let me show you a picture of the recipe in the cookbook. So that's what I'm expecting it to look like. Unfortunately, it's minus the mayonnaise maybe being a little bit of a yellow flavor. But I'm thinking it's turning out a little too liquidy. I'll give it another minute pulse just to see if everything comes together. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to use this mayo. Fortunately, I do have ketchup. I was going to say, yep. I do still have ketchup in the fridge that I can use when it comes time to sample the fries. So let's give this another minute pulse and see what happens. And I probably should have given a 5-second warning as well that the blender was loud, but actually this blender's pretty quiet. So let's give this another pulse and see what happens. That was your 5-second warning, by the way. Let's take a look on the inside. I just had the lid fall in again, but the fact that it's still dripping is telling me something I'm not liking what I see. So let me give this a quick wipe down and then we'll take a look on the inside of the blender. Even watching the lid on over the sink as I'm wiping the lid down is telling me that it's probably still a little bit too runny. I mean, maybe it's supposed to be runny while you're making homemade mayonnaise, but this still seems like it's too runny. We'll give it a look though. Yeah, I'm almost wondering if I might need a few more pulses on if I might need a few more blender pulses, because it's definitely not feeling solid enough where I want to use this. I'll give this a quick taste, but yeah, I think the fact that it's running this much, it turned out fine, but it seems like it's turning out fine from a taste perspective, but it's not holding together the way I would expect mayonnaise to. So I'm very hesitant to use this on the taste test. Let me see if I can scrape the sides down a little bit. Maybe getting some more of that back in will help me out with it, but yeah, my instincts with this are telling me that this is not turning out the way I was expecting it to. So odds are we're just going to be making another recipe of fries and not the garlicky mayo that I wanted this to be. So I think what I'm going to do here is now that you guys have the idea of how this is supposed to go, I'm going to turn the camera off. Maybe this just needs more time to blend. And we will come back when the fries are out of the oven. It turns out that adding the oil how I did actually ruined the mayonnaise, so we're not going to have the mayonnaise as part of the taste test. We'll have our ever handy backup in ketchup. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back to the fries like I mentioned. We're going to add the salt, pepper, and garlic. I decided I'm not going to use the rosemary. And we're going to carefully toss the fries to coat them. So we'll start off with our kosher salt. We'll try to toss this as best we can. But of course these fries just came out of the oven, so they're still fairly toasty. Our our pepper. Wow. My eyesight is not what it used to be in my old age. And now the garlic. So we're going to toss these as best we can. Again, fries are fairly toasty since they just came out of the oven. I'm just putting everything back away. There we are. Whoop. Whoop. Probably one of the lousiest toss jobs I've ever done, but again, given that these fries were at 425 degrees probably about 10 minutes ago, probably about the best I'm going to get under these circumstances. Actually, this doesn't look like it's too bad. So I'm going to wash my hands off once again. Then we're going to put these back in the oven for about 4 to 6 more minutes. Then we'll let those cool slightly once they come out of the oven. So I'm going to move the camera out of the way here. And we'll put these back in. I'll set the kitchen timer for 8 minutes. There we go. And we'll come back probably in about 15-20 minutes, I think, after the fries have had some time to cool. Here are the fries as they just came out of the oven. As I mentioned, I screwed up the mayo, so that won't be part of this. Anyway, we'll plate a handful of these. We'll have our ever-handy backup ketchup, and then I'll meet you guys over at my desk for the taste test. I've got some of the fries here. As I mentioned, I did ruin the mayo, so we're not going to be having the mayo as part of the taste test. I'll do a fry plain and then dip one in ketchup and see what I think of both of them. So first up, the plain fry. And one in ketchup. happy with how these fries turned out. There's not too much spice to them. Probably would have been might have been a little bit more spicy if I'd actually used some of the rosemary or other herbs, which you can sub in. None of which I did for this recipe. Not happy I ruined the mayo, but hey, at least we've got content for potential redo month on Mystical Munchies. But that's another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. Next week we will be making the side, and I need to double check what the side's going to be. Right, Trinket's Bear Claws. As for what's coming up on the channel, later today we will be at Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri, continuing my 2009-10 hockey season replay in Stratomatic Hockey, as the Minnesota Wild will be playing the St. Louis Blues. Tomorrow morning we will be playing Talon as we start Space Month by GMT Games. Wednesday we'll continue Space Month with another debut as we play D100 Space. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications to get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.